Will you guys please help us welcome Maria Emmerich?
Testing?
There you go.
There we go. Sorry. Okay. Let me get that back in there. Oh, great. First of all, I want to thank Bronson for having me to this awesome event. I feel very blessed to be here. Last time I saw him, we were in Costa Rica on the Carnivore TV show, and I was like, Bronson, I want to start lifting weights again. Yes, I know, so much fun. Bronson, I want to start lifting weights again. I want to be able to lift my kayak onto my car. And I know I still don't look super buff, but I have gotten to that goal, and I'm going to just keep on doing it because Bronson's mom, was she amazing or what? Yeah, very inspiring. But I want to inspire you to change the way maybe you or your family eats or your grandchildren, whatever. Because like we were talking about the school lunch, it can be delicious. Yes, we eat chicken nuggets, but they're just different. My disclosures, I have 20 plus books. There are like maybe 3 of them left. And I have been working with clients for over 20 years. I myself have been keto. I have celebrated my 26th keto anniversary, and yes, it's not sustainable. I mean, I'm just, I don't know, not feeling left out. And if you don't know, I have 2 little boys, Micah and Kai. They're not so little anymore, but they have been eating this way for their whole life that they've been with me. Kai's been with me since he's 1. Mike has been with me since he's been 2. And they love this way of eating. If you don't know, I'm probably the biggest introvert in the room. It doesn't mean I don't love people. I do love people, but my happy place is in the water with the whales. So I spend quite a bit of time with the whales. That's my son. I used to bring both of them out on the paddleboard with me. And if you don't know, I work with Halle Berry. She is a very sweet woman. She could be the biggest diva in the world, but she's not. She is so sweet, so down to earth. And Keto Comfort Foods is one of her favorite books that she likes to cook from, and she does cook from it. It's not a chef, she does it. And she also helped me with the Sugar-Free Kids book. At the age of 16, I was diagnosed with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is basically a type 2 diabetes that affects female fertility. And at that doctor's visit, I was given an acid blocker because I had pretty severe acid reflux. I was given something for IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. And I also was given a prescription for, it was an antidepressant, because I was pretty depressed. I was 16, and I had these prescriptions in my hand, like, am I really gonna fill these? Because the doctor said it was nothing I was doing wrong, it was just the cards I was dealt in life, because my grandpa had type 2 diabetes, my cousins had type 2 diabetes. But let me tell you, I worked at a coffee shop where before school, because I was in high school at the time, before school I would go there, and I would make the scones and the muffins and the cinnamon rolls. And then I would go to school, do my math, band, and then after school I would go back, and we would close about 5:30, and whatever didn't sell, I got to go home with. So you think I'm kidding, but I always made extra cinnamon rolls. I'm so not kidding. I would go home with boxes of stuff, and I would like eat just the muffin tops, because there was like 20 of them, you know. But that's what I was eating. That very same week, I took my golden retriever, her name was Tiba, to the vet. And the first question the veterinarian asked me, what are you feeding her? The doctor never asked me what I'm eating, right? Right now, if they ask me what I'm eating, I'm like, none of your business, because you're gonna, it's all good, don't worry about it. But when you look, there wasn't the internet back then, this was a long time ago, but when you look into what causes PCOS, because being told you can't have your own children at 16 is pretty like, ooh, yikes, right? It's excess caffeine, sugar, and carbohydrates. I know you all love your coffee. We don't have to talk about that. But let's not say it's a health food, because it's not. But those 3 things cause excess androgens in a female body. It's not a good thing. So I had to change my life. But I did not want to live off of chicken breast and broccoli. And I still don't. I don't like that. So I just started making cinnamon rolls differently, like with the egg white bread. Has anybody made those cinnamon rolls? Pretty good, right? The reason I have addiction in the background is I feel like this is one of the hardest addictions to get through, food, because you have to make that choice multiple times a day. You can avoid alcohol, you can avoid drugs. I know, I'm not saying that that's easy, but you need to eat. And what happens when someone is trying to cut out alcohol? People are usually very respectful, like they won't drink around you, right? But when you say, I'm not having sugar anymore, what happens? My mom made me my favorite pie. Like my mom did. Sorry, Mom, if you watch this. But it's true. She did. She made blueberry pie with ice cream because I love that. It's very hard. This is me baking at a very young age. I loved it. I still love that today. I still like licking the batter. But it also shows my sugar addiction. I was on a lot of antibiotics because I had ear infections so bad they would bleed. So I was always on antibiotics. And that bacteria that was gone causes a lot of sugar cravings. Sugar shock. How did we get this far? So what's happening to our health? This starts in 1985. And you can see the charts. There's no data for the gray, 0 to 9% obesity rate. With the dark blue, the lighter blue is 10 to 14. So you can see, but just watch this as it goes through the years. I had to speed it up because it was taking too long. Look at this. It's sad. It's very sad. This is what it is like now. There's no blue left. The life expectancy in America, you can see it correlates to obesity. It's hand in hand. So how we eat is basically killing us. There's junk food everywhere, right? So trans fats, and I know that like, okay, yeah, trans fats are bad, but you don't really realize what they're in. It's in everything. And first they begin with the cheapest oils, usually corn, cottonseed, canola, already rancid and full of free radicals. Then they mix it with medical particles, usually nickel oxide. They add soap-like products. Like they actually have to clean it because it smells so bad nobody would ever eat it, right? But this is also very cheap to use. So it's used in most things. And like I was at the pool area on the cruise and someone's like, oh, you know what is so delicious? I can't believe it's not butter. I was like, oh my gosh. You said that around the wrong person. And I really wanted to say something. Craig's like, don't. I was like, but we could help them. But here are some of the things that you'll find it in. DiGiorno pizza, Coffee Mate creamer, even though it will say 0 trans fat, it's per serving. So they make it like a half a teaspoon. So it's 0 serving, per serving, but you turn it around, there's trans fat in it. Animal crackers, which are for children. The Jif omega-3, you think that's a healthier option, it's not. I ran a marathon a couple years ago, and I remember someone next to me eating saltine crackers with something else. I was like, wow, that's such a bad way to refuel. The Special K protein bars, Cheez-Its, all of these, popcorn, Cool Whip, all of these things that you think are maybe healthy. I was like, yeah, no. So keto's biggest mistake, a lot of people will do like ranch dressing because they like to add, it's dairy-free, Whole30 approved, the ranch dressing thing. Mayonnaise, yes, it's keto, but it's still most of it, we usually use primal, I make my own, come on people, it's so easy, right? This is the natural peanut butter. Teach your kids this stuff. That's where it starts, The Coffee Mate creamer, like I was telling you, it says sugar-free too, but it's corn syrup. That's the second ingredient. The Atkins bars, which is another keto thing. If it comes out of a package, think twice, people. But even salmon. This salmon that you can buy at most grocery stores has trans fat as like one of the third ingredient. So like fast food burgers are usually fried in vegetable oils. And even like an omelet. So we went on a family Alaskan cruise. That's where I came from. A little tired. But I always said, I bring them a little pat of butter. They have that out. I was like, can you make my omelet in butter, please? It never looked that good. It was usually burnt, but they at least made it in butter rather than the oil. I always lie and say I'm allergic to oil. They're like, allergic to oil? Oh, and has anybody been to Joe's Crab Shack? Okay, don't use their butter because it's not butter. Because again, I said I'm allergic to oil. They're like, oh, it's a butter oil mixture. I was like, we're going to take it to go, okay? Aspartame is the number 2, so trans fat number 1. Aspartame is number 2. And you find this in a lot of things like Crystal Light, a lot of sugar-free gum, sugar-free Kool-Aid, sugar-free Jell-O. That's all aspartame. And it's an excitotoxin, which excites the neurons in the brain too much. And over time, this can kill mitochondria. And that's the exact opposite thing that you want to do as you age. It's basically a methanol that turns into formaldehyde, which you put into, it's embalming fluid for dead bodies. And it damages developing brains, especially our children, right? And then 85 proven and documented symptoms. This is not me making this up, okay? Headaches, muscle spasms, tinnitus, irritability, heart palpitations, dizziness, rashes, insomnia, memory loss, you name it. It's also found in Flintstone vitamins. It's found in instant breakfast, sugar-free breath mints, sugar-free Jell-O, which I see a lot of, even some like doctors recommending this. Sugar-free Cool Whip, wine coolers, you name it, diet sodas. Number 3 is food dye. One of the most common ingredients in food isn't even food. It's food dye. And that wasn't my quote. But you can find it even in vanilla ice cream. Okay? Food dyes are synthetic chemicals. They add 100% real potato au gratin today. Gets its golden hue from yellow food dye. The whole grain bread also has food dye in it. I actually worked at, I was kind of consulting with this grocery store that I live in. I also live in Hudson, Wisconsin. And he said, you know what, Maria? When I first started here 10 years ago, the bread had a shelf life of 8 days. I needed to get it out of my store in 8 days. He said, do you know what it is now? 15 days. But this was like 10 years ago. So it's probably more now. They're adding tons of stuff to things like bread. But hyperactivity, restlessness, attention problems, but even yogurt, most yogurt does have food dye in it too. But things that we think are healthy, like whole grain bread, yogurt, Let's see, number 4 is soy protein. Soy protein is something you might find in a lot of keto products. Kashi Goleen cereal, that's not a health food, stay away. The South Beach diet bars, stay away from those too. These are phytoestrogens, which are estrogen-like. Soy burgers, soy milk. It's very harmful for thyroid function. Its estrogenic and toxic effect can affect the breast, uterus, and thyroid cancer. Growth disorders, thyroid problems, infertility, and tumors. Soy is basically a toxic chemical that can't be metabolized. It's an anti-nutrient which blocks absorption of minerals from the intestines. It also has, not oxalates, but I'm trying to think of the other anti-nutrient that it has, but I can't think of it at the moment. But what's that? Yes. Well, it has the same thing that lectins has. As a I can't remember at the moment, but that's okay. But soy formula, which sadly is what my son Kai was brought up on, because he was at the orphanage since he was born. It's about 5 birth control pills a day when they give that to babies. Sugar. We all know we should stay away from sugar. That's why, even though it's a Keto Kids cookbook, nobody wants to buy a Keto Kids cookbook, but they want to buy a sugar-free kids cookbook because they know sugar's bad. But the obvious is it's in the sodas, the juices, the sweetened teas, sugary cereals, and candy. But the tricky part, it's found in marinara sauces, salad dressings. Now, if you look at most ranch dressings, now they have sugar. Ketchup, baby formula, Ensure and Pediasure. A lot of times they'll say sugar-free, but they have something called maltodextrin. Maltodextrin is a corn derivative. It will make things sweet. And sugar has a glycemic index of 52. Maltodextrin has a glycemic index of 110. And you'll find maltodextrin in Splenda, stevia in the raw. So you have to always look at ingredients. And things like bagels, popcorn, and pretzels, the starch quickly becomes sugar in your bloodstream. I used to eat fat-free pretzels, not because I liked them, but I thought they were, fat-free, right? I'm going to eat these. They're higher on the glycemic index than jelly beans are. So how much sugar? Here's just a few examples, like a Thanksgiving dinner is a lot of sugar. Grapes have sugar. Soda, obviously, and apple. But we just don't associate some of these health foods. Like Weight Watchers would say that's a free food, right? The apple. Candy was rare. Nature's candy is fruit. But now we reward kids for eating fruit. Well, that should be the dessert. That is the treat. And it wasn't an all-year thing, right? Growing up, we had one television, and it had about 3 channels, if we were lucky on a good day, if the radar was catching it. And my mom liked to watch Little House on the Prairie. Anybody watch that? Do you remember Laura Ingalls Wilder? She got 1 piece of candy a year. 1. Now, if kids get, an answer right in school, they're tossing them candy, right? It's like, it's so hard to combat that. Like I had a 12-year-old type 1 diabetic client, and when he got an A on his math test, she gave him a jumbo bag size of Skittles. Sugar and carbs consumption, you can see just going through the roof. Also, the U.S. corn production is going through the roof. That's just cheap sweetener also. All the high fructose corn syrup going through the roof, and it correlates with the obesity and overweight. Are you depressed? What's that?
Skittles are outlawed in Europe.
Are they?
In many countries, food dyes.
Well, thank you, Paul. I remember your name is Paul. Now, I would also say in Europe, if somebody's on an acid blocker, I usually work with people in Europe. They're never on an acid blocker for longer than 2 weeks because it says don't take longer than 2 weeks. Here, they're on it for years. Yeah, and if you want me to tell you what happens to your intestines, watch out. So here's an example of something maybe it looked like a day that you were eating, right? You had coffee with cream and sugar, total Raisin Bran. Might as well start the day with a healthy Raisin Bran, right? And you had some grape juice, 8 ounces, not a lot. At snack, somebody brought in donuts and you were good, you only had 1. Again, with your coffee and cream and sugar. And then lunch, you always get some fast food. And so you got a hamburger and fries with ketchup and a large drink. Snack was Mountain Dew and Twizzlers. And dinner was 4 slices of Papa John's pizza with garlic dipping sauce, a large soda, and 4 cinnamon sweet sticks. That's 5,000 calories, but when you do the breakdown, that's 4 cups of sugar. Oh my God. Don't tell me you didn't eat that way ever. I mean, I don't know. I've been there, right? Okay, so you're depressed, you want to change things, so you're like, okay, I'm going to do the whole grain Cheerios with a banana. I still like my juice, and I'm not going to give up my coffee. So that's your breakfast. Your snack is half a pineapple or half a cup of pineapple and vitamin water. Lunch, you don't even chew your food. It's Yoplait yogurt and a Slim Fast. All right? Oh, that was so gross. Dinner was a small salad of only 1 cup with croutons and French dressing. And then you had spaghetti, only 1 cup. That's not a lot, right? That's less than the Italians eat, right? With some marinara sauce, 1 slice of garlic bread, and fat-free frozen yogurt. I used to think that was a good day. You do the math on that, 87 teaspoons of sugar. That's still a lot. Okay, so you're like, I heard this Maria has something going on, so I'm going to eat some of her food. So you still want your coffee, but we give up the sugar. You just have some real cream in it. You have 2 eggs with mushrooms and peppers, some bacon, some strawberry tea instead of the juice, okay? Snack is one of Maria's keto donuts. Lunch is a homemade keto wrap with organic chicken, cheese, lettuce and tomato, avocado. And then dinner is protein noodle spaghetti. Don't knock it till you try it. And meatballs. And then 2 of my Pizza Hut keto breadsticks, not real Pizza Hut. I just have a recipe called that. And then a piece of keto cheesecake. That's less than 2,000 calories. And when you do the breakdown, it's 12 teaspoons of sugar. It looked like a good day of eating, right? You had spaghetti and meatballs. 4 grams of carbohydrates become 1 teaspoon of sugar in your bloodstream. That's what I was doing with the math over there before this. So everybody's like, well, Maria, I don't really like sweet stuff. I like salty things. I'm like, well, is it like salt on a steak? Or is it chips? Because that's 2 different things, right? A small blizzard we all know is sweet. It has 21 teaspoons of sugar. A 9-ounce bag of potato chips has 32 teaspoons of sugar. But nobody associates that because it's not sweet. If you add a soda to that, that's another 16 teaspoons. Could our food supply be a part of the problem? Absolutely. Look at that formula. It's now chocolate flavored. Why does a baby need to have chocolate formula? Right? In 1840, the typical US person had 2 teaspoons of sugar a day. As of 2009, it was 63 teaspoons of sugar. I need to update that. But sugar in your blood. So like I remember Smart Start cereal. Oops, I should go back a little bit. Do you remember Smart Start? I used to think that was so healthy. And I would have that with skim milk, because that was all what my mom bought, and a banana. And if you break that down, only 1 cup. Usually had more than 1 cup. If you break that down, it's 25.25 teaspoons of sugar. No wonder why I was hangry for lunch. Because what goes up must come down. You raise that blood sugar, it's going to come down. And when it comes down, it doesn't even have to be low, but when it starts coming down, that's when you get hungry again, or hangry. If you had 2 eggs with some peppers, mushrooms, onions, that is 1.5 teaspoons of sugar in your blood. Or if you had my homemade keto donut, it's 0.7. Skim milk is as much as 4 Starbursts. That's a lot of sugar. Other names for sugar, lactose, like I told you about maltodextrin, honey, fructose, sorghum, molasses, coconut sugar, all of these are still sugar. The Dorito effect, has anybody read that book? It's very interesting, isn't it? It's fascinating. Why people are drawn to Doritos is because we're missing flavors. And so it's like a flavor bomb on your tongue. But if you eat chicken, it never tastes like your great-grandmas did, because the chickens are no longer eating the bugs that they should be. They're now like vegetarian. Chickens aren't vegetarian. They're like velociraptors. If you ever watch them, they're brutal, right? But they should be eating bugs and stuff, but that's what gives them their delicious flavor. But now we have chicken soup. The celery is awful. It's bland. It's not good in the soup. So everything's bland. Nobody uses fish sauce anymore. I do, but like nobody's using these flavors to give it a flavor bomb. So we're drawn to these frankenfoods for flavor on our tongue. Eat this, not that. Yes, you can still have quesadillas, but it's going to be different, right? So like I said, the Smart Start cereal. So this is a bad breakfast. The Smart Start cereal is 25.25 teaspoons of sugar. Oatmeal with skim milk and berries. Your doctor's going to tell you to eat this, right? That's 14.5 teaspoons of sugar. And that's if you didn't add any sugar. Everybody added sugar. Come on. A good breakfast, make time for it. People think that I'm cooking all the time. I don't. I work smarter, not harder. I'm just very smart about it. My family's eating really good. We just got home from, I didn't even get home. They got home from Alaska. I had everything ready. It's in the freezer. I'm just smart about it. You don't have to cook all the time, but when you do, if you have everything out, just do a bunch, right? Make a party out of it. Teach your kids how to cook. But like we'll do like pizza quiches. Tastes like pizza for breakfast, and all they have to do is warm it up. I also have really great homemade waffles that they don't use almond flour, coconut flour, none of that. They're really delicious, a lot of protein. I just make a bunch and I'll freeze them just like an Eggo waffle. You just have to toast them up, right? Sure, it takes a little time and planning, but we plan for everything else in our kids' life, in our own life. We plan for a car, we plan for a vacation, we plan for everything. Why are we not planning about our food? That just doesn't make sense to me. I want to eat good food. I don't want to eat chicken breast and broccoli, you know. My protein pudding, has anybody made that with hard-boiled eggs? It's weird, right? It's weird. So I'm going to tell you a little story. Even Halle Berry loves it. She was like, I'm not eating this, Maria. Gross, 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 gross. It took her about a month, and then she ate it. Now that's like what she'll have for breakfast. My son Kai, when he first adopted the boys, we had another job loss, and we didn't have any money. What's the cheapest keto food? Eggs? Well, it was. I don't know about anymore. Eggs were really, really cheap back then, you know. You could go to like Walmart and get a dozen eggs for like 90 cents, right? He hated eggs. I was like, oh man, this kid has to eat eggs a little bit. And he didn't like them. I tried them every other way. One day I was like, I'm going to throw some hard-boiled eggs into a blender. I added a can of coconut milk, a little sweetener, vanilla, cocoa powder, mixed it all up, a little cinnamon, and you blend it up. It's like chocolate mousse. It's weird, but it's so good. Like, you got to try it. Or like even like my little handheld like sandwich. It's eggs on each side, and then you just fill it with whatever you want. Take that with you in the morning. There's Halle Berry with hers. She wouldn't share the leftovers. A bad snack would be the granola bar, the Nature's Valley granola bar, or the Think Thin. You'll see these at Trader Joe's. Everybody thinks they're super healthy. But when you look at the ingredients, it's not healthy. Soy protein, maltitol, which is just going to give you the farts. I'm telling you the truth, right? It's a hydrolyzed starch. Like, just stay away from that. Another bad snack idea would be the Yoplait yogurt. It has more sugar than a Kit Kat. I'd rather have the Kit Kat. Apple and peanut butter, just, you know, it's just sugar. If you look at the ingredients of the omega-3s. Reconsider snacking. My kids don't really snack. There's a really great book, I can't remember the name of it, like how French kids don't snack. But that's how you get them to eat all these exotic foods at mealtime, right? But if they know a snack's going to come in an hour, I'm going to hold out, right? My kids don't really snack. They eat meals. So snacks often ruin the appetite, even as adults, right? If you're really that hungry, you have time to make a meal. Good snack. I do have a recipe for homemade Quest bars. They don't use whey protein. I have sugar-free beef sticks. We often buy those. I have beef jerky. It's easy to make. I usually smoke it. Deviled eggs is a good snack if you do that. I usually bring those to parties.
You're the best.
Thank you. I actually add a little bit of fish sauce in them. Does anybody else use fish sauce? It's like, nobody's like, what's in this? Nice.
It's in your book. You made me buy it.
Awesome, thank you. Don't smell it, just use it.
Yeah.
Like, I make salad dressings or whatever, and we'll use it, or like sauces. It just adds a little flavor bomb. Chipotle. We have this really great video on YouTube. Nobody watches our YouTube, but it's fine. But Craig took my son Kai to Chipotle, which is about 2 miles down the street. It was at 3 p.m., so it wasn't a very busy time. And I stayed home, so we both had cameras on us. I stayed home and I made Chipotle at home with organic beef. And not only was it way cheaper making it at home, we had leftovers. And it was way faster. By the time he came home, we were done eating and cleaned up. And I got to teach my kid to cook. It was a great experience, and I taught my son how to do his dishes. If you don't like to cook, you can make it in a slow cooker. Slow cooker is your best friend. It cooks it for you, and then you can go on a bike ride or whatever. I love it. Good dinner. We have like carne asada tacos. We just make them differently. Fun fact. A lot of people are like, oh, ketosis is so unhealthy for you. A fetus naturally uses ketones before and immediately after birth. The idea that ketones or ketosis is somehow unsafe for a baby or children is silly. Babies are born with elevated ketones, and babies have high levels, about 0.5. Even in a fed state, it quickly rises above 2.0. The thing is the younger you are, the less fasting you need in order to be in ketosis. You know how like even a person that's eating sugar overnight, if they wait long enough to eat, they'll be in ketosis. Is the whole idea of fasting, right? The younger a child is, the less time they need to get the ketones higher. And it'll just naturally come up. It's not a bad thing. My baby's first foods. This is Kai eating bone marrow. That was, his first food was bone broth. I have videos of him begging for it. This is his sign for, he would do some signing for more bone broth. It's one of the most nourishing foods. Sally Fallon said it's so medicinal that if you could bottle it up into a pill, the pharmaceutical companies would be broke. Bone marrow, which is basically nature's savory jello, you know? And to this day, Kai does not have a sweet tooth. My older one, I can't say that, but this one, he's like, ooh, this has sweetness in it. I can tell. We also would make salmon, and then for him, I would just puree it with some bone marrow or bone broth to make it smooth. Ground beef, he could eat that, little pieces of ground beef with salt. Egg yolks with salt. Whatever we ate, we just made it smaller. We didn't make him chicken nuggets and things like that. We didn't. And if your baby is constipated, it probably needs more salt. Micronutrients in food. What foods have the highest micronutrients? Craig, he's awesome. If you don't know Craig, he's my husband. He loves to make charts like this. The superfoods, it's not apples, it's not blueberries, it's not kale. Beef and beef liver blow everything out of the charts. Even if you don't like organ meat, you don't have to eat that. Beef alone is going to be way better than kale or blueberries. But some things that I do, I'll like hide it in things. I'll hide it in chili, a little bit of liver. Nobody knows it's there. Like a 4-to-1 ratio, you won't taste it. Especially chili, spicy, you won't taste it. Animal proteins are the most bioavailable nutrients out there. The other foods have anti-nutrients that actually bind to minerals, build up in the kidneys, causing kidney stones, right? So like animal proteins are where it's at. So this is chicken, pork, egg, salmon, beef liver. They all have different nutrients, okay? Somehow we've lost this fact. Doctor's not going to tell you this. Just beef, again, don't worry if you don't want to eat liver. Beef alone wins. You can see that there. But yeah, this is the chili. I have these cute little bowls for my kids. They think I'm really annoying, but someday they'll thank me. I'll even put like a little meatball in the basketball hoop. And you can make burgers, like a 4-to-1 ratio. You probably won't notice that the liver's there. The bioavailability, I said this word a little bit earlier, but like zinc, everybody knows, or zinc is very high in, oysters are very high in zinc, one of the highest foods. However, that's only when it's eaten alone. If you pair zinc, or pair oysters with black beans, only 30% of the zinc is absorbed. If you eat it with one corn tortilla, 0 is absorbed. Spinach is another example. It's very high in calcium, but it's all tied up in oxalates. What about fats? This is where like I probably will differ from some of the other people you may hear here, but fats, I'm not saying don't eat any fat. Nobody should do that. But fats it's not where the nutrients are. Fats are essential, but they shouldn't be the focus. Like bulletproof coffee, it's empty calories to me. There's no nutrients in it. You have the anti-nutrients of the coffee because it's a bean, right? And there's really no nutrients in the butter, maybe like some CLA or something. But if you had steak and eggs for breakfast, you're going to get the same amount of calories. You're going to get a lot more protein, and it's much more satisfying because you get to chew your food. And like beef tallow versus lard versus real beef liver, you can see 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, beef a lot. Bulletproof coffee versus eggs and beef. You can just see like have steak and eggs. It's more delicious. Fruit is nature's candy. I said this a little bit earlier, but they keep changing things. The first tomato was high in the Andes Mountains, and it was so bitter, nobody would have ever eaten it. But now we've bred it. Scientists have changed it to make it sweet and delicious, and then we make it into ketchup and add a bunch of sugar to it, right? But like cotton candy grapes, you know, they add more and more. Paul, it's funny, I know. But they never make a bitter, less sweet variant, right? The sugar bee apple, the Honeycrisp is a hybrid, taking an already sweet, Honeycrisp is sweet. And they make it even sweeter. Cotton candy grapes, 100 calories and 28 grams of sugar compared to the already hybridized grapes with 62 calories and 15 grams of sugar. That's almost double the sugar. Set yourself up for success. Start early with your kids. It's like just let them be kids. Then they're 18, they're obese, they have PCOS, they're sick, and you expect them to just not eat that anymore. It wasn't easy. Stick with like-minded people. Like, find a group. I know Sue's in my group. You know, a couple of other people are in my group. We have meetings every week. Like, you have to stick, like, whether it be your family or whatever, it's hard to be around people that are always giving you pie. I have to be honest, though. We homeschool. I'm an introvert. It was weird going onto the cruise ship and being like, wow, people eat a lot of crap. And even my kids are like, wow, they're eating a lot of ice cream, you know? Like, whoa. It's hard to be around temptation. It's easy to be in your safe zone. So in the beginning, if you need to be in your, because now we don't see that as food anymore. It's not worth any bite of that. But in the beginning, if you need to find a safe zone, find a safe zone. And I'm not saying it's impossible if you surround yourself with addicts, but it's going to be hard, especially in the beginning. And if you do have children and you're tempted by the goldfish or whatever it is, don't have it in the house because nobody needs it. And like, so a lot of people are like, oh, my kids are like, 12 and 10, they need it. Like, they don't have any money. They don't have a car. Like, if it's not in the house, what are they going to do? Maybe they'll get it at school, but you do what you can. It's not going to be in your house, right? Now that my kids are strong enough to understand food, they want to help kids get off sugar. And nothing makes me happier than when people comment on our YouTube, the few people that watch it, like, oh my gosh, Kai, my son Kai is always my taste tester at the end. And they're like, Kai has inspired my children to cut sugar. Because he's so, like, he's a character. Well, check him out. Plan equals success. Like I said earlier, we plan for vacations, we plan for our kids' college, we plan for cars, our homes, whatever. Why are we not planning for success with food? You know what's so funny, though? That's actually considered an eating disorder. Isn't that interesting? And work smarter, not harder. When someone says, oh, I'm too busy, I laugh because nobody's busier than I am. I'm working with multiple celebrities. I wrote 3 books in 1 year. We homeschool our children. I consult clients daily. My husband is very sick, so I take care of just about everything at the house. Nobody's busier than I am, and I make it a priority. If I am too busy, get the slow cooker out. Fill it up, and it'll cook it for you. While you're taking people to practices, the doctor, whatever, you come home, it smells beautiful. You usually have leftovers. And when I make my breakfast chili, Corey's going to make my breakfast chili. So good. Thank you. When you make it, I make a quadruple batch. I get like 8 pounds of ground beef out. I make a huge batch, and then I put it in portions in the freezer. So when my kid's hungry and I don't have anything planned, I'm like, go to the freezer, pick something out. I always have egg life wraps in the freezer with taco meat. They can make a simple taco, whatever. It's always like, if I don't have anything ready right then, I'm like, there you go. So yeah, I take shortcuts. Like I said, I often make 8 pounds of taco meat because it freezes really easy, right? And then egg life wraps. That's one thing from a package that I will eat. It's just egg whites. Has anybody tried them? You can find them just about anywhere. Even in Hawaii, I just order them online because it's hard to find stuff there. My Italian chili tastes like pizza in a bowl. It's really, really good. Make a big batch of that. The human design. If you look at our ancestral timeline, if you put our diet changes into perspective, this is when we were apex carnivores, modern humans, 50,000 years ago. This is 2019. I know I need to update it. 10,000 years ago, agriculture begins. Here we have hybridization of produce in 1840. Here we have year-round availability of produce. Here we have millions of food additives and processed foods among GMO and all of the others that we have to deal with, seed oils. This is just modern humans. If you put the entire 2.4 million year history on an evolutionary 24-hour clock, we have been eating grains for the last 6 minutes, ultra-processed foods for the last 4 seconds. Our bodies don't know how to process that. And it's never going to learn how. This is why the pharmaceutical industry are billionaires. Well, if you're interested, you don't have to buy a book. I have a free ebook with meal plans. It's on the link here. I think everybody gets all of these slides, right? I'll give. If you email me, I will give them to you. All good. We do have a free YouTube channel. Check it out. It shows your kids how to cook. I usually pick very easy recipes because I want people want easy fast, right? Easy fast. If you want to come on a trip with me, I got a lot of trips going on. South Africa, Croatia, Portugal, Morocco, you name it. And we eat keto. If you don't want to eat keto, there's no judging on my trips. I promise. But you're going to have a good time and learn a lot. I have a lot of books. I think there's 22 now. And I also have services, keto courses going out. And if you want to become a certified keto coach, some of you are. Stu, can you show a hand? Stu and Sue are keto coaches. If you want to learn about the program, you can ask them. But that is my presentation. I think I have time for questions. No?
Yeah.
Questions. Yay.
We'll come to you. Raise your hand if you have a question.
The winner of the giveaway, right?
I was interested in finding out if you have a recipe for low-fat, high-protein ice cream without allulose.
So you don't have to use allulose in the recipe? Oh. No, because the allulose will keep it soft. But this is the thing. You can just take, this is how I do it, because I'm a part of the Clean Plate Club, right? Like if I make my ice cream or my flourless chocolate torte, whatever, I would always just take one more bite until like the whole thing was gone. So I've learned to, like with the ice cream too, I put it in ramekins. I did this on the YouTube video about it. I put it in ramekins and then I just take it out because I don't always use allulose either. I just will use a little bit of like stevia glyceride or monk fruit to sweeten it up. I don't even use the powders that much. But then I'll just take it out like 15 minutes earlier, whatever, to let it soften. And doing it in smaller portions, it softens nicer. But I do that with my flourless chocolate torte. I don't make the whole thing. I put it into ramekins and bake one at a time because I'm the only one who likes it. And so I would just make one when I wanted it. And then by the time you're done eating one, I'm not going to go through the whole trouble of thawing one, baking it for 15 minutes. Like, I'm done then, right? But just made it a little easier. That's it for questions?
Another question? Okay, I have a very specific question.
Aye.
I have tried probably 20 different versions of the protein bread, and like, I can't do it. I say this to everyone. Like,
what's your name, hon?
I can't make the protein bread. I can't
What's your
do
name
it.
in front of you? Or right here. Tori, you said you made it. And I was like, did it work? And you're like, every time. You just started. You just made it like last week, right? So, are you using real eggs?
Yes.
Water bath.
Is there any water in the bowl? If there's a drop of water in the bowl, a drop of water on the whipper, a drop of water on the spatula, anything, that will cause it to fall.
Okay. Well, I can get it to the point where it won't fall, but it's either like completely not done in the center, but everything else is burnt, or it tastes like paste. And yes, I was that kid that ate paste, so I can say it tastes like paste.
Is it like styrofoam?
Yes.
This is user error.
I assume it is, but this is why I'm asking the experts.
So I'm just teasing you. But I've tried to say this everywhere, but once you add the powder, once you add the dried egg whites, gently mix it a little bit. If you turn that whipper back on and for like 30 seconds, you're gonna have a styrofoam-like bread. I just use a spatula. You just wanna fold it in a little bit. Otherwise it will turn out like styrofoam.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So,
I'm gonna try it again.
Please
Hope springs eternal.
tell me if it works.
You just need to fold in the cheese, David. Fold in the cheese.
Any more? Someone over here had one?
Stu.
Thank you. By the way, I'm one of Maria's coaches, and it's a fantastic program. Anybody should benefit from it in this room. I've grown so much in the last 2 years coaching clients. I think that the problem in the keto space is the hype with products that don't really work, don't help with weight loss, like exogenous ketones, MCT oil. You know, there's so much commercialization in keto, you know, with a wrapper. If you see a wrapper that says keto, well, you better stay away, you better run away quick. That's the problem. People need to read labels real carefully. They need to use total carbs instead of net carbs. I think that's the greatest snafu that most people get caught up in, because they just jive into the commercialized products, you know, that say, oh, it's low net carbs, you ought to buy this, you know, when the total carbs are really too sky high. Anyway, that's just my viewpoint. I think we really need to simplify things. Don't go to quick fixes in order to lose, or like I say to clients now, release weight. You don't want to get it back. You want to release it into the environment, into the air, never to return. Anyway, that's just my reflections from the
very good
conversation.
I think, Stu, you brought up in one of our meetings how we should be saying fat loss rather than weight loss, because we don't want to lose muscle, we want fat loss. But when we say fat on like Facebook, it's flagged, and you like get kicked off of Facebook for a while, because you can't like tease somebody for saying fat. It's like, no, we're saying fat loss, you know. So Stu has an amazing Facebook group. You should check it out. Yeah.
All right. So
My cleanse.
I have this wonderful book here.
Thank you.
Have you met me? I'm louder than Rachel. I'm just saying. The 30-day ketogenic cleanse book. First of all, the breakfast chili is the tastiest thing I've ever put in my mouth. I'm not lying.
Thank you.
But the meal plans that are in them are like 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 calories a day. Is that meant to be just for like the 30 days and then go back to doing, not whatever, but is that supposed to be that low forever? Or is it just for the theme of this book for 30 days?
Have you done my macro calculator?
I have not, but I am very confused in life with you follow this person, they say this person says this person says that. Even within this room, everybody says something different. And then I'm dealing with army doctors that are like 1,300 calories a day max. You need to not eat red meat more than twice a week. You need to not eat this. You need fruit, not a vegetable. Have you seen my testimonies? I've seen some of them, yes. So I'm trying to figure out, is this like a forever thing, or is this more meant for that?
I would like you to get your macros because your macros will be different than everybody else's.
Right.
And then you can modify the cleanse to follow your personal macros.
Okay.
Because it will give you a low range, but then it will give you your, your overfeeding range because I don't want it to be that same low all the time. And that's
Right.
why it ranges in that book too. But it's easier if you just, because maybe you don't like the breakfast chili. You can mix and match.
How could you not? It's awesome.
I know, right?
Anyway.
But you can mix and match to follow your macros, right?
Okay.
Because I would say it will work best if you follow your macros.
Right.
And if you really want it to work, I mean, I got the goods to back it up. Most people come to me from other people saying it didn't work. I gained weight on carnivore. I gained weight on keto.
Right. I mean, I'm not coming from a defensive. I'm looking at you, me, and Bronson all obviously need very different things in our life.
Oh, amen. Yeah.
That's so I'm saying that number is just for
Right.
everyone, for one person specific. It doesn't matter. Is that
I would just say if you
philosophy, if you will.
Well, if you just go to my ketomaria.com,
Yeah.
you can get a calculator to get
Okay.
your personal, because you'll do your activity, you'll do your lean mass, you'll do your,
Good deal.
so yeah,
Thank you.
you want to make sure you get enough protein.
That's what I want to make sure, the protein, and then make sure.
Yeah.
long term. Thank you.
Yeah.
Buy the book, make your chili.
Aw, thanks.
Has anybody not tried the egg pudding? Does it sound weird? It sounds weird, right? I will tell you, last year I had $30,000 in dental work. I had to have a bunch of extractions, all of my teeth redone. I lived on it for a month. It sounds gross, but how she turned eggs into chocolate pudding still amazes me.
You're so sweet. I will say, if you use scrambled eggs.
Yeah, well, I do scrambled eggs because farty smell, but
Right. The sulfur smell happens with user error when you make
Yep.
hard-boiled eggs. But if you tend to have that, and never use store-bought hard-boiled eggs because they use vinegar,
Yeah.
and you'll get a vinegary pudding, which is not good.
if
use
it sounds
scrambled.
weird, try it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.